Hey guys, Nick Ringus here, and today, as promised, I want to share a different type of story with you. A failure of the great game of business, a business that the great game of business could not help, could not save. So, as some of you may or may not know, I was in the restaurant business before the agency, before I opened Apricot Marketing, Apricot Law. We opened Apricot Law back in 2013, and before that, I owned a restaurant with my mom, dad, brother, and a few partners. And over time, we ended up buying out our partners, and at the end, I completely got out of the restaurant business and left it to my family. And my brother called me, I guess it was about 6 months ago now, and he told me that he decided to close the restaurant, that he was going into the winter months, and restaurant business is all about kind of the good days covering up the bad days, or hopefully you have more good days than bad days, so the profitable days make up for the days that have losses. Like, for example, a Friday and Saturday is a good day for the restaurant business typically, and hopefully you make enough in those 2 days to cover for the days you're not busy. And you have to keep the people on normally, or the staff on those days, so you're paying expenses and you're losing money or not making that much money. And hopefully the good days cover the bad days. Same thing in that business, in that particular restaurant, with the seasons. So we always used to hope that the summers were good enough, the summer months were profitable enough to make up for the really dead and slow winter months. So when he came to me, he was going into the winter, and he was saying how Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, those delivery services made up for about 50% of the business. And although the revenue was nearly the same as it was before COVID or during COVID, during the beginning of the pandemic, the revenue was the same, but they were taking 30% off the top. So their fee was 30% off of the sales that they made, which at this point accounted for nearly 50% of the overall revenue. So because of that, they weren't making that much money in profit during the summer months. And those are the months that we really needed to do well so that they would cover for the slow months in the winter. And because of those delivery services and the dining room not going back to what it used to be pre-COVID, he didn't do so well in the summer months, and he was coming up into a winter with no reserve, basically. So he decided to close the doors, to close the restaurant for good. And I thought that there was still time to implement the great game of business and to possibly save the restaurant. But he already had his mind made up. So I wish I had a little bit more time to roll out the great game of business, because if any industry or business needs the great game of business, it's the restaurant industry or the food industry. Bar, restaurant, hospitality, because that industry works on such thin margins that every penny needs to be accounted for. Typically, we made somewhere between 6 and 8% annually. That was our profit as a percent of revenue or sales. So having the great game of business would have had everyone looking at the numbers, looking at the same scoreboard, knowing how the company made money. And it would have taken a lot of burden off of the owner, us at the time, and then my brother, so that he didn't have to worry about every single penny or watch every single penny, because, frankly, you just don't have, you can't be everywhere in the restaurant. And that's why they say, like, you have to have somebody that you trust in the restaurant, particularly or preferably family, because they won't steal from you. You know, a big problem in the industry is people steal. But anyway, so if there was any industry that could use the great game of business and open book management, it is definitely the restaurant business. But he came to me too late and with his mind already made up. So it was too late, but I will tell you this. I went in there and we looked at the books and we really dug in and kind of looked at every line and made sure that everything added up. And what we found was crazy and too late. But by looking at the books and opening up the books, we found that the person that was reporting the sales in the POS, in the point of sale system, where the accountant got the numbers from and was reporting sales tax from, was over-reporting sales. They were reporting sales from another location at this location every single night for the past year or so. So even though QuickBooks, the accounting software, was pulling the right numbers from the business's bank accounts, the accountant was going into the point of sale remotely and grabbing the numbers that were essentially overinflated, and they were double reporting sales tax. They were paying one location sales tax, and they were paying for both locations sales tax out of this one location. So that's like a $35,000 overpayment in sales tax, and now it's not that easy to get it back. You have to amend the sales tax returns. You have to wait to see what they're going to do or if they're going to credit you. Usually it's a credit towards the next month. And, at this point, my brother was already, had his mind made up to close the door. So, it was a mess, and we found it out last minute. So just an example of how knowing your numbers and the open book management could have helped my brother in that business if we had the time. I feel like that was just the beginning. I feel like we could have found dozens and dozens of ways to save money and to put more money into the bottom line and put more money away for the slower months if we had everybody involved in looking at these numbers on a weekly basis. So that's number one. Number two, I think that it didn't work, and it wouldn't have worked because I don't think that my brother, when I mentioned open book management, was really all that into it. And you need leadership that is into it, that has the qualities of open book leaders. The very first step of implementation is start with the right leadership for a reason. If the leadership is not bought in, if they're not vulnerable and they don't have courage to open up the books and ask for help, then it just doesn't work out. So for those two reasons, we didn't have enough time. It was far too late. And because the leadership would have never bought into open book management and opening the books to the restaurant's people, the Great Game wasn't able to save this restaurant. And they ended up closing the doors to the restaurant that we opened back in 2005. It was now closed as of 2022, and it is no more. So, as promised from yesterday, I shared a success story, or one still in the making at the agency with the Great Game. And today I shared a personal story about how the Great Game didn't work out for this one business. All right, any questions or comments? Don't hesitate to reach out. As always, remember, people support what they help create. And thanks again for watching.